In this video, I'll be doing an unbiased review of the oldest and maybe most well-known service business software, Housecall Pro. I'll make it extremely simple for you to figure out if it might be the right platform for your business, and if not, some alternatives that might be a better fit, depending on your type of business or situation. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Joe Guevara, and I'm a technology strategist and business consultant specialized in helping home, field, and B2B service businesses. We'll be doing a quick overview of the platform, then dive right into the methodology I use with my clients to figure out if it can be a fit for you across 7 business factors that are essential to home and field service businesses: target market, lead acquisition, scheduling and dispatch, CRM and integrations, job and project management, invoicing and payments, and then finally, a summary of the value to cost ratio and any other specific tidbits unique to the platform worth mentioning. As 2 final notes before we kick off, I regularly update my website with the latest business tech and offers, as well as free resources specialized for trades and service businesses, so definitely check that out if you're in the industry. And lastly, if you are looking for new software and you don't have any in-house expertise for technology in your business, I have limited slots per month to do a free 15-minute discovery call to see if I can help you out. Booking link in the description below. And with that, let's dive right in. Housecall Pro has been around since 2013 and was one of the first out of the gate to create an industry-specific solution for home service businesses, largely in the HVAC space. Today, they claim a portfolio of 35,000 clients spanning other service businesses like HVAC, plumbing, electrical, landscaping, cleaning, and more. So if I were to summarize them as a platform, their core demographic generally leans towards smaller scale service businesses that want something absolutely basic, and is probably the best fit for businesses that are just starting out as a solopreneur or crew under 5 employees. If you have an established business with processes that you can't really change, especially accounting or operational processes, HCP is generally going to be a tougher fit without having to do manual workarounds or sacrificing efficiencies and automation on certain things. We'll get to specifics throughout the video. Their support model is only via chat and email and community support. They don't have a phone line that you can actually talk to someone in real time, which can be a big deal to some, especially if you use their payroll or payment processor. More details towards the end of the video. As of 2 to 3 years ago, they tended to be praised on their customer support, and even recently, they still get good grades when it comes to basic support and getting you answers to basic questions about using the platform. However, in comparison to other platforms I work with and review, most recently they've been getting a lot more negative reviews, primarily with the delay getting response to their chat, as well as the responses that they do get of their service reps and experienced clients receive when they get to actually speak to a representative. That said, it's a simple enough platform that if you're good to troubleshoot most basic issues, that may not be a barrier for you. Personally, I rarely ever have to speak to a rep when working with a platform, but then again, this is what I do for a living. My final note in the service, especially if you decide to try them out with a free trial, link in the description below, is that you do have to be prepared to get bombarded with sales calls. The moment that you sign up for a free trial, almost immediately, you'll get a sales call, multiple text messages, and an email with a BDR or business development rep trying to get in touch with you. As part of the free trial, they do have their own guided tour that you can see here with a basic wizard that I found to be a bit buggy and that you have to refresh to get it to work right sometimes, but it gives you a good feel for the platform without having to talk to anyone. That said, if you're seriously considering buying the platform, the sales reps can be helpful, but if you're just wanting to try the platform, it can be annoying if you're like me and you just want to test out the platform yourself before you actually speak with a salesperson. So with that, let's dive into the first category, who their target market actually is. It's important to understand the target market for any platform because it'll generally give you a sense of what kind of roadmap or what the software is going to improve or develop in the future. In this case, HCP targets business owners that likes to be hands-on with technology with minimal support, as you've seen with the lack of phone support. At the same time, they make the platform as simple and locked down as possible in order to minimize the complexity or complication of running the platform in the first place. On one hand, this is great for new businesses because it's almost like a business template that you can use to make sure you have everything a service business might need, especially if you're a startup solopreneur venturing out on your own. If you build your business into the platform, then chances are you're going to have an absolutely amazing time as long as you don't have to contact support. On the flip side, if you're an established business with your own processes, systems, and even financial requirements, even if they're on paper or Excel sheets, this kind of lockdown environment will severely limit how automated you can get your business to become, in which case you have three less than ideal options. One, change your process or requirements. Two, create a potentially troublesome workaround. Or three, maintain the manual process and inefficiencies, or potentially even become more inefficient, which obviously isn't what you want. This is why it's incredibly important when you're buying software to think about what your business needs are, not just today, but look out 2 to 3 years into the future. One final note is that Housecall Pro is generally far more catered to residential use cases, meaning if you sell to other businesses, the sales and the tracking that you'll typically need will have to be housed in a separate CRM like HubSpot or Pipedrive, and you'd have to use Housecall Pro primarily as a booking and operational tool, which is usually a far worse setup compared to just getting a platform that can be tailored for B2B directly, like Thrive or Service Titan, or even HubSpot. On that note, this distinction between whether or not you target residential or business, or a hybrid of the two, is where our second key category becomes incredibly important: lead acquisition. When it comes to getting new business, HCP is limited to residential because it largely targets transactional service businesses. For example, a plumbing business that advertises to get toilet installs or leak fixes as a one and done. For businesses like this, HCP tends to be a great fit. It has virtually every basic tool that any service business needs, as well as one unique one called HCP Assist that packages the capabilities in a nice all-in-one solution. The most common call to action when getting new leads is typically phone calls, and not only can HCP make it easier for your staff or yourself to put all lead information in one place, which is CRM functionality I'll get to later in the video, it actually has an integrated VoIP platform or voice over IP or calling system, as you can see here. Now, this is generally more expensive than standalone solutions, but you do get the benefit of having the phone data automatically synced and tracked with HCP, and you just need to get the other details from the client, which increases your efficiencies. That said, this is generally only useful if you only need a single line to use, but as you scale with more techs or even CSRs, this can be restrictive to standalone systems. The one I typically recommend is AirCall based on its features, but I would also consider Nextiva or Unitel if you don't need those features, if you want something simpler but still flexible. Now, the next step up from this is actually using the service I mentioned earlier, HCP Assist, where Housecall Pro has a team that serves as a 24/7 call center. I won't go into detail on this feature in this video because I haven't reviewed it yet, but I'll have a video coming out comparing that and other options in the future. So subscribe to the channel if you want to see that when it's out. Last but not least, one big part of what I make sure every service client I work with focuses on when it comes to lead generation is something called reputation management, which is something that every service business should be doing. This means having a consistent process before, during, and after jobs to make sure you're getting either feedback or credit for the work you're doing in order to get as much value and revenue as possible from the jobs and clients you're already working with. Now, Housecall Pro's integrated marketing capabilities aren't very robust, as you can see. It doesn't have any fancy HTML editors or design tools and is purely a basic text notification email that you can't even edit the text on the pre-call notification. Not to mention another limitation that I'll cover in more detail in the operations section, where if you need to schedule multi-tech or multi-day appointments, this will actually screw up both your notifications, like sending multiple notifications to the same client, as well as your financial records when it comes to accounting integration. That being said, they do have an integration with a system that I personally recommend, which is Nice Job, which is a standalone reputation management software. Now, I haven't tested this HCP and Nice Job integration myself yet, so definitely take a look to see if it works for you. But I've personally reviewed Nice Job myself, and by itself, it works really well to do reputation management properly, and for what 80% of residential service businesses might need. So if you end up choosing HCP, you can always complement your implementation with that platform, but again, that's a separate cost. So while I'm pointing out a lot of limitations here, a lot of these don't matter unless you're doing business in volume. If you're just starting out, much of these automations are perfectly fine since you can always send out a customized email directly to your clients. So make sure to keep in mind what you think you'll need now versus what your expectations are as you scale. However, if you are expecting scale or are already dealing with a high volume of leads and clients, this becomes a pretty important bottleneck for your business, and you're better fit to choose and start off on a platform like either Jobber, Thrive, or Service Titan, depending on your requirement, with Thrive having the most robust marketing automation capabilities out of all 4 platforms. The final lead acquisition model is actually also part of our next section on conversion, which is automated appointment booking, and as part of that, your scheduling and dispatch process. Automated appointment booking tends to be where HCP leans a lot of their marketing. This tends to become a pretty mandatory feature once you have more than just yourself and are running ads with inbound leads or a website that has a decent amount of traffic that's converting. Not only is this useful for clients and typically increases conversions, it's helpful for internal staff as a scheduling and resourcing mechanism, since on average, you're going to save about 60% of the time it takes compared to trying to reach someone by phone and confirming manually and playing phone tag. You know the drill. This also reduces the risk of no-shows and cancellations with automated notifications that get sent to the client before an appointment. So creating it is pretty easy, as you can see here as part of the trial. You have a wizard that has templates for most service businesses to use. You simply have to go step by step. You pick your industry, and you'll have a set of different services that you can simply edit and base your existing services on. One thing you'll need at some point are probably pictures or graphics to replace these logos if you want, but that's a nice to have. When you're actually editing or creating new services, these are the fields that you're going to have to work with. You have the service price, which integrates into your invoicing process, as well as the HCP payment processing system if you decide to use it later. We'll touch on that in our final section on accounting and finance and some of the more interesting reviews on it. You need to set up the service duration based on the average or maximum you expect that a service call can take. And lastly, you can add a tag if you want to do something called skills-based routing, which means you can tag certain staff members on the platform with specific skills so that only techs with that skill or tag will be scheduled for the appropriate service calls. Lastly, you can do basic qualification questions on here as well, and whether or not it's a full job or simply a request to get an estimate, that's going to be useful if you want to filter that in your reports. Now, how automated you want to make this is also in your control, whether it's fully flexible and the client books directly into your calendar, or certain services might need specific start times, or you can maintain full control with a manual booking process where the client doesn't actually pick a slot, but only requests a booking, and your staff or admin would call the client to confirm availability if you have a very dynamic schedule or you want to just maintain that level of control. Basic automations like your availability are all here as well as how soon a client can book and potential arrival times, which unfortunately is a static number, not based on address or anything, unlike more expensive solutions like Service Titan. Now, a lot of the feedback and reviews have commented that this is buggy when it comes to email notifications, and if the customer selects the wrong response, can completely throw off schedules or cause a lot of frustration. Now, whether these reviews are based on actual bugs or issues, or if they just didn't understand or set up the platform properly, there's no way to actually tell. But personally, I haven't had these issues for the instances that I've implemented, but that's why it can make sense to have a technology expert like me help make sure you can prevent problems before they happen and get it set up right the first time. One final piece of feedback I hear across the whole platform is its poor search capabilities. In this case, not being able to find a particular appointment very easily if you have a lot in the calendar, which is something I have experienced, which leads us to our next section, the actual CRM, its integrations, and reporting capabilities. CRM, for those unfamiliar, stands for Customer Relationship Management, which at its absolute simplest is just a list of customer contact information in a single place. So yes, an Excel or Google spreadsheet with your customer data is technically also a CRM. But in modern software context, a CRM is only as good as what it allows you to do with that data, from marketing, automated communications, general automations, looking up customer details, your notes, your reminders, notifications, and a ton of other stuff. So technically, any software that houses customer data is a CRM, but what it can do is vastly different from platform to platform, which is why this is a very important criteria when it comes to business software, since CRM data is virtually the one system that touches almost every process in a single business. And it can make or break how efficient and profitable your business runs based on how well it's set up. For any system, it all starts with the data you can collect, and that's where both Housecall Pro's pros and cons actually exist. This is essentially every non-financial field in the system you can collect from your customers. And no, you can't change these fields. This is great if you had no system whatsoever. These are the basic fields that you would typically need anyways. And like before, if you build your business with these as requirements, you'll have a good time. Inputting data is as simple as this form here, easily accessible by your staff, or some fields will be filled out as part of booking processes if they go through your booking flow. But if you have an established business and you need to collect information that isn't on this list, you're not going to have a good time. You can generally do a workaround using the notes section maybe for any miscellaneous fields, but unfortunately you can't filter your reports on it. So this generally rules out any product or inventory use cases or even PO numbers or tracking data. Again, a big limitation here is that even with their integrated reporting capability, search functionality is also hit or miss. For example, if you search toilet in the services section and you have two services named toilet repair and toilet install, there's a chance that only one of those two services will even pop up in the search results. Now, I have no clue why it does this, but it's generally a sign of poor coding or database architecture on their part. Lastly, even with such limited fields, there's very minimal integration capabilities that you can use compared to other CRMs. Now, of course, core CRMs, meaning software built as a CRM first, do this best, and for small businesses, there's typically HubSpot or Pipedrive that works the best. But even as an industry software, this is one of the biggest annoyances I have with Housecall Pro, in that it is a CRM because it has all this data, but you can't really do anything with it outside of HCP. For a scaling business looking for growth opportunities and efficiencies, personally, I think it's a stupid product decision. But again, as I've said before, temper these comments with the fact that there are businesses that operate very simply. And if you are that kind of business, then none of these points are likely to matter to you. Now, of course, data and client management is only one half of a business management tool, the other half being the actual management, which brings us to our fourth section, job and project management features. This is a spot where Housecall Pro simplicity kind of shines, because everything is locked down. If you have a very simple transactional job process, then Housecall Pro's platform, as well as its mobile app for your field crew, are pretty straightforward. The app is also a decent option with a lot of features. Here's some of the basic functionality that you can do on desktop, but made very easy for techs. So it's no surprise that when you look through reviews, techs generally love the app. But business owners tend to have more beef with it because of how to actually manage all of that data and what you can do with it to run a business. It does really well with anything the tech needs to do in the field, and I feel like their priority in the technician experience is how they're winning and maintaining a lot of this business. But when it updates that data into the system, then you as a business owner tend to have a worse time. Now, as part of the app, they do have a GPS location feature, which you can give you an overview on both your customer locations and updated crew locations as part of GPS tracking on the app. This also links with the payroll functionality and timekeeping functionality if you're on their second package. Now, it's very basic functionality compared with something like Service Titan has that has almost an Uber or grocery delivery-like experience. But it's still a good foundation that I'm sure they can build on in the future if they wanted to. Now, it's not without its flaws though. The same search bugs I mentioned before also exists in the app. So if you have a bunch of services with different price points, then it can take some time for a tech to get used to where to find it manually, instead of most apps where you can just search for a specific keyword and it pops up right there. While it has the ability to put notes and details on the app, the automated notifications, like I mentioned before, aren't editable. So crew might have to explain to the client why they're going to expect 3 different emails when they're going to do a 3-day job if you use the booking tool in Housecall Pro. And on the app, you do have photo capabilities as well. So if you take a picture of something on the job, you can store it under their customer profile, which is a great feature. But this only stores picture files. So unlike other systems like Thrive or even Jobber, you can't store forms or other data besides the one you take pictures of. But if you want to send or receive picture files and automate that, it currently only also works with iPhones through iMessage. So unfortunately, MMS or Android devices are completely out of luck, both on the staff and the client side. But overall, the app is probably one of the most polished parts of the entire Housecall Pro platform. Everything your techs need is on the app, including all of the payment and invoicing functionalities like signing, taking credit card payments, the pictures I mentioned, and even actual signatures all in the same place. But as a business management tool, we again see some of the drawbacks in our final section, invoicing and payments. So as I mentioned, Housecall Pro has the capability to take payments from the app. However, in order to have this set up, you have to apply and use HCP's payment processor, which gives you a rate of usually 2.59%, which isn't a bad rate. But for compliance, you're able to take signatures and take a picture of the credit card as well. So you also minimize your risk of clawbacks and whatnot, which is a great feature. But there are quite a few downsides that are relevant for a unique segment of businesses. First, let's start off with the invoicing process. The most common feedback is the lack of editing or branding capabilities on the invoice. Not only do you lack control of that, there's no centralized way to control what actually shows up on the invoice. The line items that you put into the job is what you preset into the system. So there's no editing or customization outside of what you're able to do when you're creating the invoice. There's also a weird quirk that invoices can get sent to customers when they book an appointment, which can confuse clients, and when they receive an invoice before they even see a technician at their door. You can't even save your invoices easily into a separate system if you wanted to. It's just stored in HCP. Now, those line item restrictions are critical in defining the potential utility of its QuickBooks integration. It's always a nice marketing trick from SaaS companies or technology companies to claim that they have integrations, but the devil is always in the details, whether or not that integration is even useful. So in this case, unless you adopt HCP when you first start the business, this is likely to be a massive headache. Your financial reports are not only dated, as you can see, based on this reporting dashboard, but because you have no way to customize the output of the financial reports to QuickBooks, you're going to have to do either one, a lot of manual editing yourself, or two, you're going to have to ignore the integration altogether. Now, Housecall Pro also has a payroll and time tracking functionality, but all it is a basic start and stop clock alongside the GPS location functionality. Now, if it's what you need, then it's great for its simplicity. And you can even add, breaks, lunches, material runs, whatever, and you can do some pretty decent tracking with it. But even if you happen to train and get all of your staff to use it properly, there have been multiple reports and reviews that the payroll output, even with all of that, can still be drastically wrong. And the problem is that with minimal support available, anything financial related to both payments and payroll can become a big problem. It's because of this that I generally advise my clients who plan to or already use HCP to not use any of the financially impacting features, namely the payments feature and the payroll feature. But in general, as somebody who's worked with HR and payroll systems in the past, I put a high priority on financial data and accuracy as part of any software implementation. And this is by far the biggest reason I would avoid using HCP if you have processes that are more complex than what it's built for. Again, if you fit your business into the platform, you're going to have an easy time. But for more complex businesses, start at least Jobber or Thrive or even HubSpot if you're in B2B. And if you're doing high revenue products, then use something like Service Titan for very nuanced accounting and job costing details. So based on those recommendations, let's wrap up and answer the big question: is Housecall Pro worth it for your business, and how much does it cost? First off, if you have any feedback on this video or about Housecall Pro, do pop them into the comments below. It definitely helps the channel, and more so if you like and subscribe as well. I actually need 1,000 subscribers to create chapter videos like other channels, which would have been amazing for a video as long as this, but unfortunately, I'm still a small channel, so your help is appreciated if you share this, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. But to sum up, is Housecall Pro worth it? If you're a startup business, willing to mold your processes to the software, and want to purely focus on just doing your work, getting paid, and hustling, then Housecall Pro probably has everything you need at a very reasonable price point. However, if you start scaling fast and you become more complex, or generally need more than 5 logins, that includes both techs and your admins, other systems are probably going to be far better value and probably even cheaper. So here's the price list as of February 2024. For a single user, you're at $65 per month, and you get the features most solopreneurs need to kick off a service business. For me, this is pretty good value. But the moment you need an additional tech or even an admin to access your account, you need to upgrade to Essentials and bumps it up over double at $169 per month. It's a flat rate whether you have 2 logins or 5 logins. Now, this tier then opens up additional functionality we discussed that don't exist in the lower tier, which is the time tracking capabilities, the GPS tracking, QuickBooks Online integration, email marketing capabilities, the review features, and other ones. Now, when you expand beyond 5 logins, the moment you need, login number 6, and I would only ever recommend going this route if you maintain a very simplified business model and service model, then you're now at $300 a month, which is now more expensive compared to a far more full-featured Thrive or Jobber implementation, which includes far more features and customization capabilities than HCP. At this level, for more operationally focused apps like Jobber, it's still more expensive, but still quite a bit cheaper than Service Titan. While I don't have their historical rate plans, it sounds like, just looking at a lot of the reviews, like this pricing model is drastically different even compared to just 2 years ago. And it sounds like HCP forces you into their new pricing models as they change it, and based on some of the reviews online, which can be a deciding factor for many business owners who want price certainty with their technologies. Usually I see that you typically get grandfathered into old plans. I haven't verified this with the company directly, so take that with a grain of salt. And there you have it. An incredibly comprehensive and unbiased review of Housecall Pro. If you found this video helpful, have any feedback, or have software you want us to review in the future, drop them in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next one.